Fabrizio Romano confirms summer transfer news as we are back in the market to sign a young, talented left back. Today, my friends, we have a ton of stories to get through. I'll be discussing reports from Saudi Arabia, Ian Maatsen's big interview, left back news, plus a host more. So sit back, relax, let's go through things. But before we continue on, one little quick thing to say, but I'm going to re-upload yesterday's What We Learned video because it got taken down. So I'm going to release that later tonight. If you haven't seen that, I suggest you guys watch that. Big topics got discussed and broken down. So my friends, hope you enjoy, and getting straight into the news. At this moment, we're set to receive £4 million for Broja's currently failing loan spell with Fulham. I feel for this guy. It's been an absolute nightmare for him. Since he arrived at Fulham, the competition around him started to raise their game, and currently, Rodrigo Muniz has scored 5 goals out of the last 6 appearances. So no sane manager in their right mind will take out a player in such great form when he's contributing massively to Fulham's needs on the field. Now this ain't great for Broja. During the January window, we were actually quoting asking fees of around £50 million to sell him before settling on loaning him out to Fulham near the final days of the window. Now, in those loan clauses, there were certain stipulations that had to get met. If Broja played more than 60% of games at Fulham, Fulham won't have to pay any loan fee for the loan spell. But if he plays less than 60%, it meant that Fulham could owe us £4 million, of course, for not meeting the criteria. And unless Broja plays all the rest of the games now for Fulham before the season ends, it seems like we are set to earn around £4 million for him. And to be fair with you, if we're keeping things brutally real, the reason why we loaned Broja out to begin with, one hand was to get more match experience and game time, but we were hoping that he'd be a first choice striker at Fulham, which means that his market value can increase because we are hoping to earn at least over £35 million for his sale. That's not happening right now. I feel for Broja, the injuries really just slow down so much progress in his career. That's what injuries do in this game, sadly. But you know what? We're not going to get big money for him, because why would any club even pay £35 million, knowing the fact that we are desperate to sell? All clubs know that we must sell players before the 30th of June. So right now, it's not looking too great for us. And if I could decide what to do with Broja's future, I'm finding him a loan spot in Europe. I know that Sevilla need a striker for next season. I'm telling Broja to play there, to work on his technique, playing a different league, different tempo, different pace, come back a better, more prepared and ready player. So that is the first story out the way. Let's discuss what is going down with Todd Boehly being in Saudi Arabia. Because yesterday, Matt Law released a very big article and he mentioned that Boehly has made recent visits to Saudi Arabia, holding talks with our former sporting director and Michael Emenalo. And as we've known, since Boehly and Clearlake have taken over, Boehly has been spotted regularly in Saudi Arabia, of course, looking to build those business relations. Now, last summer it worked out in our favour. We got guys like Koulibaly off, Edouard Mendy. Ziyech was close, but in the end, of course, that move to Al Nassr fell through. But this summer, with players like Lukaku still not having clubs guaranteed for next season, it seems like there could be an openness for us to maybe negotiate Lukaku now going to Saudi Arabia. And I'm only assuming this based on this newfound openness from Lukaku, who was very cryptic around his future, not wanting to jeopardize anything and wanting to play things smart. So I think this makes a lot of sense for us. You're looking at players like Raheem. We know last summer Saudi clubs made moves to try and sign him, and as we know, this season he's not really performing consistently. He's earning incredible money, and knowing the fact that our financial situation is not perfect right now that we aren't securing Champions League football, I wouldn't be surprised if Sterling is a big money sacrifice made this summer, because realistically, only Saudi clubs could afford him, and they could afford to offer him more money than we currently can do. And I feel like money would be the only way to maybe potentially entice Sterling away, because listen, him and his family are settled in London. Why would he want to leave right now? And if he does leave, ideally, he prefers to remain in the Premier League. So let's see what happens in Saudi Arabia. But outside of just transfers, of course, one of the most important areas in which we have underperformed so far since his takeover is in securing sponsorships. Now, last week it was announced that we have terminated our existing sponsorship with Oman Airways. Now, that was only bringing in around like 2.5 million a year on like a 3-year deal. And actually, Oman Airways, of course, initiated termination talks because they need to downsize currently right now. And sometimes that happens. But then when you consider the fact that we don't have guaranteed sleeve sponsors for next season, but when you consider that we don't have long-term sponsors guaranteed right now, it's not great for our finances. Infinite Athlete are a good short-term stopgap that we need, but then from next season they become the sleeve sponsor, and that's only for training kits. So we need to get a main shirt sponsor and a main sleeve sponsor, and it seems like our best bets at securing this type of investment is going to come from Saudi Arabia. Now, it's no surprise that there's been lots of talks that's come out surrounding us holding negotiations with Riyadh Air. Matt Law also reports that we are holding conversations with other Saudi companies as well too, and we need something bigger, more prestigious and more long-term, because let's be serious, none of us have been proud by the fact that we've resorted nearly to sponsoring up with crypto companies and all these risky type of companies where, you know, there's no long-term money coming in. Since we announced pre-tax losses of £90.1 million, you know, it's a well-known fact now that we must generate at least over 100 million worth of sales before the 30th of June. Otherwise, we could fall foul of, you know, certain stipulations. And as I keep saying, it seems like Saudi clubs could be our saviors at this point in time. Now, I'm fingers crossed we can hopefully get European football this season. I'm still crossing my fingers for the Europa League. And that's because certain deals, like maybe having something lucrative with Air Jordan, that fully depends on us getting European football in some capacity. So there's still a lot to play for. There's a lot of pressure, and we need to start bringing in more money in this football club. Otherwise, things are looking very bleak and very worrying. But I guess let's discuss more upbeat news, and let's discuss Romano's report that came out from his YouTube channel. And as he says, right now, we are in the market to sign a new left back for this summer, but we want a young, talented and exciting prospects. Now, listen, from last year when reports came out surrounding the fact that we wanted Valentin Barkov from Boca Juniors, we all knew instantly that we probably were going to strengthen again at left back this season. Now, I've discussed certain young prospects like Patrick Dolga, who's having a great first season now with Lecce. I discussed Ghent's left back in Archie Brown in a video a few weeks back. It seems like we're really casting our nets wide, and it seems like the profile of left back we're looking for is someone obviously that can play box to box. But this guy needs to be quite good in the air, and he has to be very formidable in the final third, because for the big clubs, your fullbacks are essentially like wide midfield players or wingers. I mean, when you look at Malo Gustav, when you see his touch, how he plays, how he moves, honestly, a few years back, this guy is just your winger playing for you. He probably is that good to be your winger, especially with his incredible crossing skills as well too. So I guess having a profile similar to like a Gusto at left back could be key. But then it will come down to this every single time for me. But when you had guys like Lewis Hall and Ian Maatsen, you know, we essentially had those young talented left backs for free that cost us nothing, and they're players that we could work with and potentially grow in the future. And you know, I don't think we've learned many lessons since we've allowed guys like Livramento to leave. I mean, you guys know on this channel that I was fuming when we sold him. I thought the way in which he even left the club was a disgrace in my opinion, and I still stand by that today because I know exactly what went down. And you just think to yourself, if you had a talent like this, how can you let them go? But with our football club, I feel like when finances are under duress, we make these sacrificial decisions, of course, because we put ourselves in these positions. So that is the only way why we're going to sell your Lewis Halls and Ian Maatsens, because Lewis Hall now is set to bring in at least £30 million, because I think the clause in the initial loan deal with Newcastle was that as long as Newcastle are above 15th place, it means that they'd have to automatically buy Lewis Hall for £30 million. And in the case of Ian Maatsen, he has a £35 million release clause in his deal. And with this fine form for Dortmund so far, you'd imagine that many clubs are going to be interested in activating that release clause. And we're bringing in money worth 60 million plus just like that. So I understand that, but then equally on the other hand, I think to myself, okay, we're looking at left backs from maybe smaller leagues, and imagine if an Ian Maatsen was at a Brest or at a Ghent or Lecce or whatever. I'm sure his hype would be outstanding right now. And same thing for most of the talents we're producing at this football club. If these guys were at smaller clubs, they'd all be playing first team football right now. And I feel like this constantly keeps getting forgotten on the management at this football club. So my friends, that's it. We're looking to sign a left back this summer. But to move on now, let's discuss an interview that came out today from a left back that we still technically own. And this was a big interview conducted by The Guardian today around Ian Maatsen. Now, I'm going to go through the key talking points. I recommend that you guys read this for yourselves to get the full context that you need. But Ian Maatsen, as he says, feels free now in Germany. He's currently having an outstanding season with Dortmund, and he said that the thing he's feeling the most now is trust. He feels trusted at Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, he spoke about his time with us, and to be fair, I liked the energy in which he was speaking. There was no malice, there was no anger, there was no hate. There was a level of understanding and acceptance, and most importantly, I feel like there was a level of understanding and acceptance which I found quite mature about the player. But as he said, he felt like he actually had that trust with us this season, but with the pressures the team were under, it's difficult for the manager to play everyone, especially when you have so many talented young kids with high potential. He said that he understands that Pochettino had certain decisions that he had to make for the sake of the team, but he said that to deal with that as a player, it's not always easy, it's not always fair, but normally it's for the betterment of the team, and that's how you have to accept it, and that's how you have to see things. I mean, I get it. I'd imagine that it would be quite frustrating and difficult knowing that left backs are currently injured out the team, yet you're still not playing in your best position, especially after your great personal loan spell with Burnley last season, and now you're seeing guys playing out of position in your position, and you yourself now being played out of position. Maatsen revealed why he had trust, because on the final moments of the transfer window this summer, the club accepted a £35 million bid from Burnley, and it was actually Mauricio Pochettino who rejected Maatsen leaving. He put his foot down and he said, "Maatsen, you are staying here." And of course, the deal fell through. So I can imagine why it would be personally even more frustrating knowing that the manager has supported you and you aren't actually supported that much on the field. But anyway, as I'm stressing, Maatsen has no bitterness or no hard feelings. He said that once Borussia Dortmund expressed interest in him, he was like, "Yes, I am there." And he brought up examples of Hakimi, Dembele, and of course recent ones like Bellingham and Haaland. They're one of the best finishing schools in Europe right now, and it's no surprise why you want to go to a club which can really put you on and push your career forward even more. He said the thing he loves with his time at Dortmund is that now he is playing in his best position, and he kind of brought up the fact that because he's playing in his best position, it means that his instincts are there. So if he sees space open up on the left hand side, immediately he will attack that and he will drive into that, and it's no surprise why he's having such a big attacking input now for this Dortmund team, where the fans now are like, wow, this guy's incredible, and they're hoping they can tie him down on a permanent deal, and they see him as a more important signing than actually re-signing Jadon Sancho. So you know what, I respect the interview that came out today, but I'm going to end things with giving some of my personal opinions. And I've said this before, but I understand why Pochettino maybe didn't use Ian Maatsen, because Poch is thinking about needing more height in the team. We need to be stronger when it comes to defending aerial set pieces. We need to be strong in the air. We need to win those, first duels and those second duels. And having a more settled back foot at the start of the season could give us more balance defensively. But actually, the ironic thing about that tactical decision was that because we then became a lot poorer with our wide play, especially down the left hand side, in a way, we actually allows more counter-attacking opportunities against us, putting us under more pressure than I think we actually had to be in. And it's a shame because when left backs were out of the team, we had a left back that was ready to take over in Ian Maatsen, and he wasn't given those opportunities. And when he was playing, he's playing back to goal, right wing, left wing, or even as an attacking mid. And I guess for myself, this was a big missed opportunity, because now we've gone away again from using centre backs at left back and we've gone back to using left backs. And I feel like if Poch just continued to trust in his instincts at the time of the season, I think we'd be a lot stronger tactically in terms of how to play with a settled back four, how to play with left backs, knowing that we had an Maatsen that could have really strengthened what we did in those wide areas. So I guess all I can say is, listen, fingers crossed, I hope that Maatsen's loan spell really gets re-examined, because I understand he could be great pure profit for us considering our financial situation, but equally at the same time, how many outstanding young left backs are there in this market right now that would be ready to take over? I don't want another Baba Rackman situation where we sign him after a great loan spell with Augsburg and then he wasn't able to fulfill the potential which made us spend 20 million on him. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. So that's the Maatsen interview out the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. And let's end things with another interesting story. And we discuss a young talent that's been scouted. Now, before you guys roll your eyes, with this young talent in particular, he's 15 years old. And obviously with Brexit laws, you can't sign anyone in Europe, I think, under 18 until they're at least 18 years old. So if anything, this has given us some insight behind, how clubs of our size scout and follow players. And this player in particular is called Francesco Gasparello. He's recently turned 15 years old. He signed for Atalanta's acclaimed academy this summer. They beat off incredible competition. Nearly every club in Italy was after this guy, and they beat Inter Milan to signing him in the end from Padova's academy setup. And he's seen as one of the strongest players in Italy's class of 2009. He's seen as a fantista, a left-footed player that can play in midfield, that can also play as an attacking mids, and he has a grace on the ball. He's got skill. He's got this nice flair and technique. He knows how to affect the game with his passing, and he's had many a comparison. Recent ones being like Çalhanoğlu and Jude Bellingham, which is fair enough, and other ones being like classic players in the past like Cruyff, etc., based on how he moves, how he plays, and the grace in which he plays with too. Now, there is a video on YouTube of like a full 90 minutes of this guy, I think, playing for Padova, but obviously I can't link that in this video, but I'm going to leave a link there if you guys are curious to see what he's about, because finding footage of this kid has been very, very hard, and I'm purely going off the research I've done, reading many Italian articles to understand who this kid is in particular. But anyway, he's 15. He's a talent, and we've been following him actually since even last year and before that. And that's why I made the point at the start of this video that with clubs of our size, the scouting knowledge, the pools of knowledge that we have, they're so deep, they're so resourceful. We know about all these guys from when they're kids. That's what it's like at this level. So the reason why I'm bringing this story up is that it's not the first time I've covered stories like this, and then maybe certain players become more relevant in the distant future. But this is like at least letting you know that there is something behind this, there's something happening here. We've been following him greatly, we're very excited by him. But equally, I think to myself, listen, if I'm this kid, Gasparello, I'm going to stay at Atalanta. If I'm good enough, I'll break into their first team from an early age, and I'm going to focus on playing my football, because I don't need prem money and resources right now and jeopardize my career. I mean, come on, we've got Kendrick Paz coming in like 2 years' time. We're still trying to sign Esteval Willian. We have all these young prospects in the team already. I just don't think we need like another future prospects right now, in my opinion. But, at least you guys know a new name to follow, and that's Francesco Gasparello. So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. I hope you guys enjoyed. As I said, I'm going to re-upload yesterday's What We Learned video where I break down Mudrik's electric goal against Newcastle. I discussed Cole Palmer improving already and getting better. I'll show you guys exactly what I mean, plus a lot more. So on that note, my friends, I'm Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll see you guys tomorrow with some more videos.